Hi everybody, Jane here, and today I am reviewing the movie Downsizing. So, the basic premise of the story is that scientists have found a way to make people small. They've done this hoping to combat the problems with the environment and overpopulation. Smaller people means less resources to live and less waste produced. So it's a pretty good idea, started for environmental reasons. Um, the main characters, Paul and Audrey, well, Audrey's not, she's kind of a main character in the beginning. Paul, this guy, played by Matt Damon, he and his wife Audrey are living in relative poverty. I mean, they're not like on the streets or in a trailer park, but they are in the house he grew up in. He's not been able to afford anything nicer. His wife keeps hounding him about wanting a nicer house and just kind of a better lifestyle. And they're kind of in a rut. Life's not going anywhere. They learn that by going through the downsizing process, they can basically become millionaires. Like, they would suddenly, the income and the savings and stuff from their assets would suddenly equal a lot more because they'd be small and wouldn't need as much to survive. So, like, I think it was something like they had $50,000 in assets, and that would turn into 12 million when they were downsized and living in a downsizing community where they could have basically a mansion of a house. They could have, all the nice things and leisure that they couldn't have at their regular size. And again, this is a lot, I believe, commercial and then government also trying to get people to do this to save the environment. So Paul and Audra decide to go and do this process so that they can live a better lifestyle together. But at the last minute, Audrey, I guess it is, gets freaked out. And so she is like, backs out. And Paul is left tiny because you can't reverse the process once it's done. So since she didn't join him, they end up divorced, which puts him very financially behind. So instead of the 12 million that he had before, he now has to live in kind of a crap house. I mean, not terrible, but a typical, he's back to the life he had, and his downsizing really was kind of pointless. It didn't really do much to change his quality of life. It didn't make him the millionaire he was hoping to be with the, teeny tiny yacht. And after that, I really couldn't tell you what happens because this movie is very strange. It doesn't have a lot of plot elements. He lives as a downsized person. He meets other people who are small. He kind of goes on a little bit of an adventure. Yeah, it's a really convoluted plot, and we'll get to that. So I'm going to give you my rating first. I gave this a 2 out of 5. And the only reason it got a 2 instead of a 1 was because it was fairly entertaining in the beginning. Now it's marketed as a comedy, and in the beginning there were some haha moments, but it really was not throughout a comedy, I didn't think. The story had a good premise, and it had some good ideas, but in the end, there was no plot. Like halfway through the movie, I'm like, what's going on? And then when there is plot, it all feels very preachy. It's very, the world is going to end unless we change the environment, / it's probably not going to happen in our lifetime, so we should party. I really found myself fairly lost in that part of the story. Like, it was a weird movie. So besides plot elements, what else didn't work? The characters were so-so. Paul was okay. He wasn't anything extraordinary. I didn't super sympathize with him. His wife was terrible. I'm kind of glad that she didn't downsize with him. And they do bring in this girl from Vietnam who was shrunk because like she was a political activist, and so her government shrunk her and sent her to America. And she's kind of a funny character, but I feel like maybe too much. Like, they make her into something that is kind of funny and comical, or try to, but she's really the person in the book who, or in the movie, who did the good things. You know, she's a political activist. She has been, hurt by her government, and she's still being an activist. But it's really hard to explain. It doesn't come off like that. It comes off as she's kind of the butt of a lot of jokes. And he ends up falling in love with her. And that is kind of cute and sweet, but I really couldn't get on board with it. I just, kind of this whole movie, I just couldn't get on board with. So, yeah, it had a lot of promise in the beginning. I was really enjoying myself in the beginning. And then once he got shrunk and got divorced from his wife, the movie just kind of got way off the rails, and I didn't enjoy it. But it was fun in the beginning. It's a cool concept. Like, I would have liked to have seen something else done with this, because it was a cool concept, and the world itself was pretty neat. The ideas in the world were neat. The shrinking and the little world that they create, and all these people who, are downsized and are teeny tiny. There's this one scene where right after he shrunk, where this nurse is like, "Hey, you want something to eat? You must be hungry." He's like, "Yeah." And she brings in a saltine cracker that is like as big as she is, and he's like, and she's all like, "It's all right, I'm just playing." I do that to all the new people. So, like, there are some cute moments. There's a couple funny moments, and the beginning was pretty good, but once you get past, like, him getting downsized and him and his wife getting divorced, you really don't, there's not much to see, I didn't think. Another thing I felt like they didn't, in the beginning, they do, like, a lot of time and space jumps. Like, we see them discovering downsizing. We see Paul's life prior to getting married, and how it really hasn't changed when he does get married to his wife. And I think that didn't help the situation, because there wasn't enough time to get to know the characters. There was kind of too much happening in the beginning. In some places, like, it was interesting, but there wasn't enough to really, like, bond with Paul. And we didn't get to see a lot of him and his wife story-wise before they were downsized. So we see that he's living in poverty. We see that they haven't really improved things, but we don't get to see a lot of their interaction. So I wasn't even sure, like, if they had a good marriage beforehand, or we didn't really get to know her, but she's kind of important as far as, why would somebody turn away from getting downsized? Did they have a good marriage? Is he mourning his relationship? Especially since he ends up in a new relationship. I felt like there was so much that could have been explored. And this movie is really long, and so much happens, and nothing interesting happened, in my opinion, for the most part, after they were downsized. It got crazy. It just, yeah. I can't even tell you the plot, because there really wasn't one. So I don't recommend this movie. It was a cool idea. I'd like to see this concept done better. But the way it was done in this movie just wasn't for me. All right, guys, my social media is below. Make sure you like and subscribe if you'd like more content. And this is Jane. I'll see you next time. Bye.